Guys, the stage is yours. You can start anytime
Yeah.
you want. And yeah, so keep it to about 45 minutes or 40 minutes or so. Then Q&A if we have any questions. And then a bit longer break, and then there will be third talk.
Yep.
All right, so
Thank
insurance. Wow, that's the first insurance story at the conference. So we're very much interested to know about that world. Enjoy. Have a good ride.
Okay, thank you. Just one last question. What do the participants see? Do they see all three of us talking?
No, they see only the one who is talking and the slide.
But
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Thank you. So my name is Karel Smutný, and I will together with Petr Kopřiva and Martin Fischer, representatives of my customer, present a case study, a story of a FrameworkLeSS Agile adoption. So guys, if you can shortly introduce yourself. Petr Kopřiva is the head of strategy execution office. If you can
say a few words. I'm the product owner of one product in the company.
Thank you, Martina.
I'm internal Agile coach for the company.
Yes, and I'm working with NN, the Czech branch, for 2.5 years already as an external coach, and I had the privilege to be at one of the restarts of adoption of Scrum and Agile. So we call this talk and case study as a FrameworkLeSS Agile adoption, because we didn't really follow any of these famous frameworks. But since we are on a LeSS conference, we put a little pun into the talk, which is intended. Once the video will be produced, we have to cut this part off, because actually no one knows, besides these two guys, that we followed some of the principles of LeSS. And since we're on the LeSS conference, we didn't really follow by the book with everything. However, whenever during our talk, during the presentation, you will spot some LeSS principle or some LeSS adoption guide, or some even a point from the Stay Sane from Jürgen's finish. Put it into a chat, because we will not put it explicitly, but many of those principles are behind our story. So we will be talking about the company NN. Maybe not everybody is familiar. It's a Dutch, originally Dutch insurance company. Internationally, it has branches in multiple states. One of them is the Czech Republic. So if I can ask Petr to say a few words about the Czech branch of NN.
Yeah, generally we're a life insurance company, but life insurance is not the only product we are offering to our clients, because generally we take care of the financial future of our clients. So we also focus on pension savings and mutual funds. We are like a third in life insurance in the Czech market. 500 and something employees in headquarters. The internal distribution network has like 400 people. We are also cooperating with the external distribution networks and with bank assurance. And last 2 years, we are on the way of marriage with another insurance company called Aegon, which is also a Dutch company, where on the Czech and also Slovak market, we joined together our forces. At the same time, what we are very proud of, last year, we were voted as the best life insurance company on the market. So that's generally for the beginning about us.
Okay, thank you very much. So the story we'll be talking about starts at the beginning of the 2018. Peter, can you describe how NN looked like before that?
Not so much good, especially in the area of change management, where the company was very silo-oriented. There were different departments fighting together for sources, having very robust project management process, and being very tight with this process, nevertheless, whether the project is small or large, and so on. At the same time, from the business perspective, we were totally paper company. If you wanted to buy a product from us, it was like you have to fill in all the paper forms. The agent who filled them with you and signed them had them several days in his suitcase. Then he sent them via his unit to us. It came as a paper to the headquarters, was there several days until somebody opened it and found there is a mistake in line 3. So send it back to the headquarters of the agent. In the unit, the agent after several weeks took it back and went back to the client. So pretty long process. And at that moment, we realized that we are totally not competitive enough and there is a time for change. So maybe that was, let's say, the beginning of the story we would like to describe you today.
Thank you, Martin. You enjoyed spoil it a bit or tease it.
Before I answer, Karel, maybe check your headphones.
Yeah, Karel, that works now, but it was like some disaster with your sound, like for about 5 seconds.
Luckily, we have a bit of script, so I generally know what Karel's question was, and it was about how NN looks today.
Yeah.
So
maybe he just told something under NDA. It was like
probably. I think nowadays we're really trying to increase our transparency, not only within the company itself, but also towards our customers. And I believe transparency is one of the big topics these days. Also, within the company, we're very much interested in increasing the ownership of individuals and of teams. And luckily and very happily, we're slowly moving towards the iterative, incremental, or adaptive approach of doing things. And Peter will talk about this a bit more down the road.
Okay, thank you. So let's go to start the story. So as majority of Agile and Scrum adoption started with the pilot project. So this pilot project was called Stella, and it had a very specific goal. So Peter, if you can please tell us something about this project. It actually started way before 2018, but...
Yeah, in fact, as I told at the beginning, we were the paper-based company. And we realized that if we want to stay still competitive, we have to digitize ourselves, because especially for our partners from the brokers, the third parties, it's not about product, who they to sell, because the products are comparable, but the way of selling is extremely important. And we were probably one of the last insurance companies on the market having only paper way of selling, of sales process. So the main goal was to digitize the life insurance sales to be back on the market. And originally we got or decision of the board, prepare for us a new tool for digital sales of insurance, and the tool should be perceived at the market as being in top 3 tools in the market. Later on, we changed this decision, and we decided in the team that instead of being top 3, we rather develop something that is top number 1, because it was later on much easier to think about things if we want to be the best. But that was the story that came later.
It was a very nice turnaround at the moment, yeah. And the goal set by management was be good enough, and the team decided to actually be the best later on. So how did the project look like in 2017? If you can very briefly describe what you saw.
I think the word which is written in the presentation is the correct one. It really sucked, because the original project was created like IT project. So there was a group of developers trying to develop a new application without real knowledge of business needs and so on. And as there were a lot of agile jargon in all around us, they also used some words from agile world like daily stand-ups and so on, without understanding the real purpose of it. So this cargo Scrum was applied also for us. And after like several months of development, it has shown that there is no way to continue like this, because they developed something that was absolutely unusable on the market. Slow, not so much helpful. So there was a clear decision to start again with a new team which will be connected or joined from not only IT people, but from the people around the company. That was the, let's say, start of our common journey. And that was the time, Karel, you came to the company.
Yes, yes. The team at the moment was basically IT only. It used the agile jargon, like Peter said, like user stories and everything, but the user stories were actually a very detailed specification created by other people, like the solution architects and the business analyst way upstream, and the contact of the team with the actual users were very limited, close to none. And at the moment, the CEO decided what you probably saw yourself multiple times, to create a special squad. This is called this Tiger Team, sales squad of the best people in the company, who would be 100% dedicated to this project, and who would be from the missing part. So the IT was covered. There was like 12 Salesforce developers, but we needed to put people from the business as well, like from the sales support, from the broker management, from the architecture, business analyst, and marketing and other departments. So it's a story similar to how Ken Schwaber was describing the very first Scrum adoptions way before in the 80s. And what was very interesting, that the word agile was being used by the CEO, but his expectation when communicated to me as an external consultant, and also to Peter as the product owner and the company, was that he wanted to think the 100% dedication of the people, with removing all their functional duties, and 100% ownership for the whole end-to-end delivery. The word squad is still being used by some people, but what we actually created was a less product group of roughly 20-something people. Peter is...
there was just one exception. The whole team was 100% dedicated, with the exception of product owner, who stayed like 50% in his previous marketing position, and 50% as a product owner, which was quite bizarre, but we were able to live this like 1 year.
Yeah. That is correct, and it sucked. So let's go very quickly through this. It was a Scrum adoption, not literally large scale, as I said, over 20 people. So for Scrum team. So let's go very quickly what happened during this time. So we started with the product definition, and I would like to ask Peter again, what was actually the responsibility of the team, because it was a bit wider than just developing an application.
And it has shown in time that the responsibility not only for the development of the application, but also it covered the whole rollout and change management with our partners, with external companies. So the team was responsible to discuss their needs, to discuss and prepare the whole change process, including the training of and all the rollout activities. So it was like a complex set of responsibility framed within this area.
This was something not really usual. The team was already DevOps, because it was working on the sales Salesforce platform, so it was obvious that they also operated and deployed the solution. It was a no-brainer. However, this team also had the responsibility to roll it to the actual brokers and negotiate everything. So how did the product definition help with this? In our presentation, there will be only real-life photos, anything else. So this is a photo from the product definition workshop. You can see the stickies.
Yeah, I remember it as well. It was one day we spent on product definition, and it helped us to understand not only the perspective of applications we had inside the product, but also the needs, the users, customers. So it made the team like understanding the boundary, but at the same time to create real ownership of the product. Because from that moment we had a clearly defined product. We really own the product from all the angles we needed, and the team started to see the product as something that really could take the 100% ownership. And it was very important for me as a product owner, because at that moment I could be able to rely on the team and on their, let's say, proud of the product which was at its beginning.
We had one more remarkable thing that some people are envying, and this is the physical product backlog. So not only we were not using Jira, but any other electronic tools, and the actual product backlog was managed completely on the wall. This is one of the many appearances. It was changing every few months. Martina, can you very quickly summarize what's the benefits and drawbacks of the paper backlog?
Sure. I would just mention that we decided to implement the physical backlog for specific reasons, not just because it's a cool thing to do, which you can see in several or many teams. The first benefit, obviously, was the transparency, because the physical backlog was available all the time in the building, and anyone from the company could come up and take a look at the backlog, and it sparked conversations and discussion between the team and the product owner and stakeholders. So that was one benefit. Second benefit, we observed very positive dynamics during some of events, especially sprint planning. And you can gather 20 plus 25 people around one backlog, and everybody can see the entire backlog on one glance, and the conversation are more effective. It's very difficult to cram 25 people in front of one screen. Yeah, so these were like the two main benefits could go on. The drawbacks, obviously, it is a bit more difficult to manage a paper backlog. The housekeeping becomes difficult if from certain amount of product backlog items, and changing the order of the items usually mean you have to shuffle all the cards. So we have to maintain a huge discipline there. And the second one is that we had some troubles keeping the enabling specification, and the limitation of the physical card is only a certain amount of things that you can write on those cards. So we actually kept lots of the enabling specifications for the product backlog items somewhere else, either on paper or in digital form.
Thank you. I will add one more benefit. It can't be any easier to remove an item from the backlog. It's one of the most important use cases of a backlog, and can't be any easier.
Yeah, sometimes they just fall down themselves, and then you know that they're too long in the backlog, and you just throw them out.
And I would add one more benefit. Currently, in the time of Corona, people are sitting on home office, so we don't use currently a paper backlog. But all of them in the team understand the way of working with. So the transfer to electronic was not just to have something electronic, but there's a really clear understanding. What does it mean to have a feature? What does it mean to have a PBI in the backlog, and what is the, let's say, life stage of each of these items?
Okay, we are a little bit behind the schedule of our script, so I will jump over one question and go right to the development of the people in the team. So everyone came from a functional department, and the idea was that maybe sometimes in the future they will go back to the original functional department. But what actually happened after 6 months, roughly, Petře?
Oh, well, generally people were coming to me and asking me, is it possible that I stay in this team for next period even after the project finishes? Because I cannot imagine I would get back to my original department. And the truth is that joining these people together, joining original developers with the business people, and as they started working together, they adapted many other skills. Like we had a guy there who came from marketing, and in a very short time he started to be a coder. He started to develop. Or another girl who started as a Salesforce developer, and currently she's a very good analyst. So the way how people were like taking the other skills was incredibly fast.
Yeah, many people grew a lot, and I remember one of them being super happy and excited while he was setting up a Salesforce administration. And I grew up so much in the past year. It was very, very nice to hear. So fast forward 9 months, when was the release of the tool? And as Jim Coplin says, every pilot project is doomed to succeed. And this is exactly what happened, since it was the most important activity of NN in the whole year. It got the unprecedented support of the CEO in terms of emotional support, not only material. So what was the happy ending of the activity, Peter?
Generally you can see it on the slide. It took like 3 months after rollout, and we had 10,000 active users on the side of external partners. And even they had still paper option, like 99% of them started to use our digital version of the process. We also increased the NPS. We reached the value 64, and at that moment we had the best evaluation from NPS on the Czech market. We were the second in the Slovak market. And comparing the year with the year before, we increased our generated revenues by 41% in this area of life insurance. And at the same time, the level of interventions, meaning there is something wrong on the contract, decreased from 16% to 8%. So you can imagine how much we saved by just changing this intervention ratio.
There was also an employee engagement survey run by HR. I think it was roughly after the launch. What was the result?
Yeah, the result was that generally people felt like really confident about the company, and the engagement of the company, not only within the team, but generally on the company level, increased quite well.
Okay, so during those 3 months, this turned out roughly the end of 2018 and beginning of 2019, and this is when Martin joined as an internal coach, as the first one actually, first one who stayed. What was the introduction of the CEO to you? What did he tell to you?
It was pretty straightforward actually. During the interview, he actually said, "Okay, there's this team. I don't even think that he called it Stella, whatever." And he said, "Okay, this team has certain way of working, and this is actually part of the FrameworkLeSS, because even then we didn't use any labels. We just said, okay, way of working." And he again stressed some of the components that people already talked about. The transparency, the 100% dedication, the end-to-end responsibility, ownership, and so on and so forth. And then he basically said, okay, it turns out that this way of working actually works, and I would like to scale this from the team of 25 or something to the entire company. So that was that.
So that was a discussion, how this turned into the whole company. And what were the first steps that the CEO did actually in his own team?
Well, he actually started with himself and he did some steps together with the board of directors, which actually resulted in creating the real team of a board of directors with certain aspects of agility. So they all sit together and they have daily stand-ups and so on and so forth. And we also, and it's the continuation of the story, try to come up with some artifacts that that the board or the entire company would use.
So this is seen on this picture behind the wall. This is the room where the whole board sits or have tables. Unlike in traditional companies, then every board member has their own corner office on the other side of the company, which was the case before. And the employees immediately dubbed it a teacher's room. Yeah.
That's true.
But it was most of the time empty. We were also trying to bring to the whole company some practices that proved helpful in the Stella project. Patrick, can you name some of them?
Yeah, the first one was so-called company wall. You can see it on the picture, where we tried to increase the transparency level in the company by presenting the main objectives of the company, the key risks the company is coping with, and the main initiatives. There was also an idea that the board will frequently use this company wall to understand what are the initiatives to be started and what is the status of them. In fact, this first version of company wall failed because for the board members it was quite difficult to understand all the ideas there, all the running initiatives, and there were no clear owners of the let's say areas of them. There were of course owner of each initiative, but there were so many people, and for the board it was very difficult to, let's say, understand it and use it as a real working tool. That was one part. The second part, we took the story "You are what you measure," and we tried to create some kind of let's say visibility of key KPIs of the company. And we tried to make it like bottom up. So we asked each department just to present one or two important important numbers, and put them again very close to the company wall, so everybody in the company can see them on daily basis and can see how the company is. Again, this bottom-up approach was not so much successful, and we changed it and we started like to present or to show just main KPIs, and we took a more top-down approach. It has shown that it was much more successful approach.
What were actually the assumptions behind the original company wall and the company gallery? What did we assume it to achieve?
As I told, the first one was totally 100% transparency and clarity. Everybody knows what happens in the company. We wanted also to understand our, let's say, capacity for change management, because as you can see on the picture, there are quite many running initiatives, and just to show them this is what we are currently running is a kind of picture that can be used for the discussion about our abilities to do the change management, and at the same time to show if something is a very long time on the wall, it also has some good information to the board. But as I told, this approach was not so much successful, and later on we will speak about it. Later on we came with a different one, which is, let's say, much more suitable for our situation.
Mm-hmm. So 2019, the NN was mostly preoccupied with integrating with the recently acquired Agon branch. So the acquisition was on the Czech market and Slovak market only, and these two companies were merging with each other. So this brings us to the next topic. There was a very strong push from the CEO not to put all the resources on the integration itself, and still being able to have some commercial activities and commercial change activities. And if you are merging two companies, you have two sets of products, two ITs, two underwriting departments, two call centers, and they all need to become one. And there were some very hard decisions to be made. Martina, can you tell us a bit about what was decided in terms of the original Stella team? What was the impact?
Sure. Ultimately, the decision was to go on with the Agon IT systems. Generally, the product that the Stella team just developed and just released was sent to be decommissioned in a year or so. And this had
not even a year after launch, right?
And not even a year after launch. Yeah, and we're actually in the process of slow decommissioning still. And this all obviously had a huge impact on the team because the team was very, very proud of the product. There was a huge product pride, and also because of the support or maybe unprecedented support. Yeah, the team was kind of on a pedestal and had special position in the company. So obviously, taking the product away was hard. There was a huge demotivation in the team, and we had to basically start anew. And this then started to overlap with the strategic pillars, which we will talk about in a minute. So basically, we needed, and by we I mean the whole product group. We needed to sit down and really reformulate our vision and reformulate what is going to be our product in order to achieve that vision. And we get back to the basics, and we started to come up with a new product definition in order to be very clear what will be our product and what value we will bring to our company and our stakeholders. Yeah. And this is, sorry.
It was a very interesting twist. So the group as a team of 20-something people stayed, but their area of responsibility was changing. So one would assume that if the product is being decommissioned, you keep the people in the product and start initiating some other people. But the organizational unit and the way of working for these people was the unit that was immutable, and they were thinking about a different product definition while partially staying with the same technological stack on the Salesforce and focusing on a different distribution channels than before. So this is also a time when there was a decision about the reorganizing on the change activities and focusing with a different focus. Patrick, can you tell us about the strategic pillars?
Well, in fact, there was a decision of the management of the company to logically split the company into several pillars, which, by the way, very, very helped us when defining the new product definition, because we could tackle with the relevant pillar. So the company was logically split to two more content-oriented pillars, which is one product and second client. Product is the part of the company responsible for developing the financial products like life insurance, pension saving, and so on. The client is another part of the company responsible for building long-term relationship with our clients, including the internal distribution network, contact center, direct sales, and so on. And the original team became responsible for all the change activities within client pillar. So the redefinition of the product definition was much broader and was very related to the client pillar of the company. There were two other pillars.
Maybe let's have a stop here for a second. In the Agile circles, focusing on clients is usually obvious, but this is also a large turn for NN. What they consider their customers before this decision?
So sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, who did NN or insurance companies in general consider their customers or maybe partners before? They were focusing not really on the end client, right?
Yeah. That's a story for even a whole evening. But generally, when the insurance company speaks about their clients, many times they understand their clients, not the end clients, but the mediators, the brokers, the people selling their products. And this logical split to product part and client part help also to understand who is the real stakeholder and who is the real client. Because for the product part, probably the main stakeholder is really the one who's selling their products. But for the client pillar, the real customer is the end client. So for us, we are really responsible for building relationships, for making the service of our client on a very high level, for increasing NPS for the end customer. So that's the split, and that's the answer to your question. So going back to the other pillars, two pillars are a little bit connected with the current situation, because one really painful topic for us is the data quality, data integrity, and so on. So one pillar is related to data. Another one is which is called shared service center, is connected with the fact that with merging two companies and merging their products, we still have original production, and some team has to take care of them. So there is this shared service center, which is also connected with the fact that some services are also for the Slovak part. And one more, which is not connected with the content itself, but with the way of working, and it's a culture pillar. And this one is really related to way how we behave in the company, how we work together.
So we also see on this picture another company wall. Martin,
That's again your sound issue, Karel.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not really sure what to do.
Nevertheless, we have the script, so it's okay.
Martin knows what to answer.
Yeah.
So can you please repeat the question?
Okay, so this is the second version of what we call the company wall, and what is interesting to mention the differences between the first and second one, and why this one, as it looks now, works. So we started with establishing or naming the objectives for the entire company, the tactical objectives which are related to current year. They're like long-term goals, and the biggest difference is that right now the board of directors owns the objective, and they really own them, and they really make the list and order them by priority and put content to this. And then what we did was, okay, now we have the objectives, and we need to see within each pillar what change activities are actually going on in those pillars in order to achieve those objectives. And we established backlogs of those strategic pillars, with also establishing product owners, real product owners, for those strategic pillars. And we listed all the change activities that are going on in those strategic pillars. What is actually not being shown here is that this evolution. And once we had the backlogs of strategic pillars, we also discovered that there are other change activities or other initiatives going in other parts of the organization of the company. And so we call those supporting organizations, and we wanted to make transparent every change activity. So we established backlogs of what we call supporting organizations. So now we have, what is it, 13 backlogs, guys? I don't know, I believe 13 backlogs or something like this.
Don't say this number, it's
whatever.
We are on a last conference.
Okay. So a huge amount of backlogs.
Yes. Maybe the interesting part is actually where this idea came from, because it looked like the Agile coaches attempted a second time, but that was not really the case.
No, this was actually from the initiative of the board and the teams. Yeah, the board wanted to see finally what is going on and be able to somehow influence and prioritize the activities that are going on in the company. So now there was actual need, which we saturated in a way by establishing those transparent backlogs.
Yeah, and it perfectly matches with the organization's the change activities across the strategic pillars. So it was probably the match that we were waiting for, to visualize it in the same way how the management and the company understands it. So we saw in one of the previous photo a lot of people on the sprint review of the actual launch of Stella back in 2019, and this sprint review culture stayed in the company for a very long time. Patrick, can you say something about the evolution of the sprint reviews?
Yes, at the beginning, that was the original team having the sprint review after every sprint. At the beginning, we had like 1 week sprints. Later on, we moved to 2 week sprints. So we kept this practice also after the 5 pillars were created. So currently, the whole company has once in 2 weeks the sprint review. And all pillars are presenting the learnings, the things we are planning for the future, and during bazaars, even the detailed feedbacks to the areas they are developing. And I have to say, it's developing doesn't mean just the software development, because we are oriented to broad scope. So whatever is in change is presented and discussed there. Currently, in the time of Corona, we moved our sprint reviews from physical appearance to virtual. And even in this form, we have like 90 people every time together, also including our board members who are presented in every sprint review. And I would also say it's not only sprint review in 2 weeks period, but the whole company changed in its rhythm to 2 weeks, because not only sprint review, but also the company backlog. You saw at the previous picture. We have meetings between board and product owners every 2 weeks, and we are able to change. Measures were taken. We met on the level of product owners and board, and the CEO told us, okay, we have changed the priorities. The first priority now is not what we had so far, but the first priority is be able to sell even without meeting the people, even without meeting our customers. So in a really very short time, we changed all the priorities in all teams in parallel. And as a company, we developed the features like remote signature. Currently, we are able to sign a contract even if there are many customers in one contract, and we can sign it on their phones remotely. We established the remote identification, even such complicated identification like when you are selling, let's say, more difficult or more risky products. And we also established the form of video calls and so on. And this was developed like in 2, 3, 4 weeks, feature by feature. So currently, we are able really to change our priorities and to change the way, the content of the work very fast. I cannot imagine this the same like 2 years ago.
So having this bi-weekly review and the bi-weekly meeting with the board who revisits the company objectives on a bi-weekly basis, not quarterly, not yearly, really helped a lot during this time of crisis to change direction.
It's not only about the meeting of board and product owners, because the board can change priorities anytime, but the way how the information are spread over the company, how we can react on the change of priorities, that's what's new in this model.
Definitely, I just build on that, Peter. I think that the biggest aspect is we drastically shorten the feedback loop and shorten the way between the actual development teams and the end customer. So not only that we can make the decision faster, but also our time to market decreased, and the way the information gets to us from the end customer is much faster than it used to be.
So if you can look back into the 2.5 years and compare today's NN with 2017 and before, can you please sum up the key differences?
Well, first, I would like to mention is the self-confidence of the company. We see and we are proud that we can deliver quality results in very short time. We increased the transparency and clarity of the key decisions and the way how we are working with them. And we increase our flexibility, so we're really able to switch the change activities very fast. Also, let's say, aiming. Currently, we know exactly what are the key objectives of the company. What is the way of working on them? And it's also visible, we already mentioned it together with the new product or with the new tool, it's also visible on the results of employee surveys. The increase of engagement and trust in the leaders of the company is incredible.
Okay, so we call this presentation a FrameworkLeSS Agile adoption because we really didn't follow any or too many guides or frameworks. We try to not use any jargon. We try to remove most of it. The only jargon that is being used is the sprint review because it's the event that the whole company uses, the daily stand-up because it's the agile practice, everybody knows it. And the rest of the jargon was used less and less, like the squads and MVPs and user stories and everything. Many people don't even know that the Stella team runs in a Scrum, in a very good Scrum for 2.5 years, and some other teams are starting with Scrum as well. So what are the benefits or drawbacks of this approach of not using too many of it? Because actually in less adoptions it is pretty usual approach. Martin, can you name some?
I would probably start it by not labeling the steps. We're actually enabling people to own the process. Usually labels, or not usually, but often the labels come with misconceptions and misunderstanding and some negative knowledge and so on and so forth. So by not labeling any of it and by organically putting step by step into the process, I believe the huge or the biggest actually benefit of this is that the people actually own the process, and that me as an agile coach, I'm helping the company and the people within the company to actually understand the process and understand the decisions that that they're making, and actually own the decision. Yeah.
Any drawbacks to this approach? Or
it's tricky. I would probably not go there. If you want to mention some, Karel, I'll leave it to you.
I can see one.
Sure.
Because we were working in a way that people really own the processes and understand the way, but it has no clear label. So the first time somebody, for example, from the Dutch part of the company will come with the presentation with clear labels, it will be quite difficult to explain our colleagues in different societies of the company that we are already on the way, and the way is quite, and we are quite matured, because it will be quite difficult to compare ourselves with a clear presentation with clearly labeled or named approaches or processes.
Yeah, it doesn't have a name, and unless it is very strongly rooted in the company processes and culture, it is kinda how to put it, vulnerable to such approaches. Yeah, there was an attempt at the beginning of or at the end of 2018 from the international to give us a help with their Spotify-ish, McKinsey-ish, safe-ish framework, but it is still as an offer, and we don't need to follow any of it. But I put this last principle on the last slide. I saw Gregory to play the bingo with us. Maybe not all of it, all of our approaches were caught, but there is a really very strong focus on us to own versus rent and to help people to come up with the process themselves. We try to focus on having teams responsible for a larger parts, and the pillar approach is helping that because it defines a pretty large portion, not only an IT system or a component, but really a part of the whole company's life. Some of the pillars are running in Scrum, some of them not yet, some of them probably will never be. And that would be everything from our side on this. So maybe we have some few minutes on questions.
Thank you, guys. That's actually amazing talk, and I can imagine how much work it's been done already in the company. That's a huge amount. So